Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Nobby Kleinman, author of Rich Girl, Poor Girl. Nobby, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Don't wait. Just start. Get started. You don't have to write everything, and everything you write doesn't need to be right the first time around. In fact, the first book I started writing on a computer, and I'm not the fastest typist, took me 2 days for 3 pages, which included constant rewrites and editing and polishing. And I knew at that rate it would take me forever, and I wasn't a patient person. So after some time online researching, I found Dragon Naturally Speaking by Nuance and just spent the money and bought it. Within the next 5 days, I had written my first book of 80 pages about going paperless in our office. I'd added in some graphics, some links, and designed the cover, and it was done in under a week. It wasn't perfect, but done is done, and I could hand it out. I was an author. Today, I just grab my iPhone, turn on Dragon, or even typing in Google Docs, and just talk away and watch it appear on screen. Have an outline of the 3 parts of the book, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Don't try to write the chapters, but do the complete document about the subject. Then later, go back and find the chapters that are already within your text. If you have a hard time with that concept, do what a friend of mine teaches, which is the 10 by 10 by 4 method. 10 most often asked questions on the subject, and add 4 sentences to each one. The 10 should ask questions on the subject, and then add 4 sentences to answer each one. And he also suggests a video with each one, and there's your content. To get people on your website, provide a link to a video if it needs to be explained. Showing your personality is a great icebreaker and allows the reader to connect on a different level. And lastly, if you don't want to sit in front of a computer, just hit the record button on a smartphone, send the recording off to a transcription service such as rev.com, who charge about $1 per minute, and you'll get the typed document back to work on. It can be as easy and as quick as that.
Well, you are preaching to the choir. One of the methods I always talk to my business owners, in particular, the clients that I work with, I talk to them about Rev, about speaking out the book, and talking about the exact method that you did, where they come up with 10 different talking points, they hit record, they touch on each of those points. Each chapter needs to be about 10 to 12 minutes of audio, and then hit the transcribe button. If they finish at 9 o'clock tonight, well, by the time they get up in the morning, they'll have an email with the transcription ready to go. It is such a great, easy method that anyone can use, and I refer to that typically as excuse proof, because every single one of us has got that story in them that if they don't want to write it, they can totally communicate that with audio.
Yeah, absolutely. It is such an easy way to go. And as you say, there is no excuse once you've got something like that available.
Well, and I'd like to ask you about Dragonspeak. So I actually had Dragonspeak, the program, a number of years ago, and the accuracy was not that great. Now, from what I have heard, it has gotten much better. So can you tell us a little bit more about Dragonspeak, the accuracy, and how much it costs to actually get that program?
Good question. It was purchased, I purchased a couple of different versions and upgraded, but the accuracy wasn't great in the beginning, and it has improved with each later version. But I found that, you know what, it's probably not worth the investment for each upgrade, every second or third one perhaps. And I think I'm up to around about 13 or 14, something like that. And it is a very, very easy and quick way to get it done. But I've also since found that you can use Google Speak. If you go into Google under Tools, you'll find it there. Not as accurate perhaps as Dragon. And Dragon has a lot of good features in as much as you can put your colons, you can give it instructions on to capitalize words or new paragraphs and all that type of thing, which are manual type situations in the other just straight out voice recording programs like Google Docs. Money wise, crikey, I can't remember. It was a couple of $100, I think, at the time. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But the reality is you've got to do what makes life easy for you. The 3 days I spent typing up those, or the weekend that I spent typing those 3 pages was difficult. I thought it was going to be an enjoyable process, and I thought, no wonder people worry about writing books. And then when I looked up Dragon, it was like, plug the thing in, away I went, and I just talked for the next 5 days. Then I went back and tidied it up. It was brilliant. It wasn't perfect, but it was done.
Yeah, and that's what my philosophy is. Done is better than perfect. Just get it done, get it out there.
Yeah, you can always go. The beauty with, if you put it up on Amazon, of course, you can go back and edit it. So you're not stuck with the one version.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to ask you too, in regards to Dragonspeak, you mentioned their updates. So they actually charge you for the new updates, is that correct?
They do, yes. Nothing for nothing.
What do they typically charge? And you can just give me a ballpark number if you prefer.
Look, I mean, I could look it up in a second. That's not a problem. But the feeling that I've got in the back of my head is somewhere around about $100, $190 or something like that.
Got it.
Okay. I've got it here in front of me now. Dragon Professionals $429. Dragon Naturally Speaking $120. There you go. Beautiful. $120, and away you go. And even if you pay that every couple of years as an update, if you're writing enough books, and even it doesn't even need to be books. I've used it on email and other communications where I'm preparing something to send out to somebody. So it doesn't need to be just for books. Any type of text.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about programs like that. You can use it for books, you can use it for email, you could even use it for transcription of seminars, different things like that.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the hardest part about getting published. So what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Okay. My first book, I was introduced to a publisher, and this guy was really switched on. He's known around the world. He was charging $25,000 to get a book done. And I thought, again, just like investing in Dragon, I thought investing in somebody who knows what they're doing, they know all the different moving parts, pay it, get it done. And so I paid my $25,000, and that was a heck of a lot of money. Was it worth it on the return on investment? No, it wasn't. Did I get it done? Yes, I did, because he kept pushing me all the way through to do what I needed to get done. He did all the things that he promised he would do, but I don't feel I got value for money in the end, and neither did the other people who were in the same group. So it's there's a lot of opportunity now where being self-published authors is far quicker, and if you get to the right stage, you can go out and do your own publishing, you can do your own distribution, and I think you can do a lot better than somebody who's going to take all this money and just have a list of a distributor to give it to, and they're going to go out and hawk your book, and if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't sell, you're stuck with it. But you've got to give them all these copies. Somewhere, I think, in our instance over here, it was around about 400 copies of your book. They would give it to their sales reps who'd go out to all the different stores. It was on the list, and if it got sold, it got sold. If it didn't get sold, the books were stored. They charged you for the storage, and this particular company ended up going broke, and all these people basically lost a warehouse full of their books, all the different authors. So there is no guarantee that going with publishers who are in the business all the time is going to get you out there. It's one avenue, and if you're prepared to explore that avenue and pay for that avenue, then make sure that you get them working for you. the one thing that I kept hearing the whole time, and this was even from the distributor when I dropped the box of books off to them, was you are going to be the one who is going to sell the most books. Don't rely on us to be doing that for you. And that already put fear and doubt in my mind as to whether I had done the right thing.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest parts I think about publishing, because even those that have gone through traditional publishers, with the exception of Penguin and Random House, and even Wiley to a certain extent, you are expected to do the lion's share of the marketing. And with my company, we're hybrid. So for us, we take payments in advance, and then we help them either through the publishing process, or we actually have a done for you book launch marketing service. And the reason that we actually started that book launch service, and it's not to sell us on the show or anything, I'm just mentioning that because a lot of people need that type of support, whether it's my company or anyone else, is that when you're working with a publisher, they should have a marketing wing where they can give you that additional support. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't realize is even with getting your book traditionally published, you're still expected to do the lion's share of the marketing. And I think it's really disheartening.
Yeah, especially if you're a novice and all you're doing is writing a book. You're not a marketer. You're not a salesperson. You're not a publisher. You're not doing any of that. All you know is you've got a story inside you that you want to get into a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually going to transition really nicely into our next question, Nobby, and that is to please share a marketing strategy that you have used yourself in your book launch that you feel works well.
Okay, so in my business life, I use just two words, and that's focus and leverage. I was approached by an entrepreneur who I've known for about 30 years. He holds monthly meetings for business people, and he had me come speak to one of his biannual major events, which draws hundreds of people in. He also bought 1,000 copies of my book and gave them to each attendee at the event. So I signed the copies for each person, and then also on-sold another one of my books if they wanted it. So I had a stand at his event. It's unlikely you'll ever make a lot of money from your book but you can generate a lot of business and income because of your book. So don't stop at the book alone. If you want to engage people, you need to have an email list and be sure to give them an incentive to give it to you. So what I did with Rich Girl, Poor Girl was have the book converted to a video. And the book is based on a fairy tale presentation about the serious subject of life and money. I recorded my reading of each page and then had my guys turn it into an animated cartoon style story. The video is about half an hour long, and those who have watched said they've enjoyed having their kids watch it, even though it has a serious side to life as a storyline. You could then follow up to see if they liked it and how you can help them with your product or program. If your listeners like Paul, they can go to www.richgirlpoorgirl.com /video and register for a link to watch it. So multi-purposing your book is another idea. And my main book, Want More Money, Honey, has parts of each chapter on the website. It's not hard to set up, and it gets the reader engaged before buying. Think outside the square wherever you can. As I say, you're not going to make a lot of money from the sale of your book. It's the introduction that your book gives you and the authority that the book gives you.
Yeah, that's one thing that's always emphasized to my clients as well. Is you're going to make good money on the front end. It's a good amount, but you're going to make the life-changing money on the back end with offering back-end services, your coaching, your consulting, and utilizing that book as a business card. I mean, that's what's the game changer to build that authority and that credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how people look at you differently when they know that you're an author.
Yeah, it really does, because it's such a better introduction when you give someone an autographed paperback copy of your book and you say, hey, I can't wait to work with you. I went ahead and signed this for you, have a little middle message, and then at the very end that we've got our phone number just saying, hey, we can't wait to work with you. It really is a game changer having that book.
Yeah, absolutely. And people, it immediately removes the sales barrier because you're actually giving something to people. It's that reciprocity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're just having a nice conversation. It doesn't have to be salesy. It's just, here's my book. Here's some great info. Would definitely love to work in the future. Whenever you're ready, here's my phone number. And it's just such a better way to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Okay, so having been a person involved in sales and then insurance, I've always enjoyed sales and motivational books and have a number of them on my shelves. Despite the best of intentions, I started many and finished few, which I is uncommon. But one in particular stood out, and I actually sought it out while we were on a boating holiday. The contents of that book are as true today as it was when I was a financial advisor 30 years ago. And it was about how to identify yourself, your role, and run your business. And that book is E-Myth Mastery by Michael Gerber. Even though I've never been a big reader, I just couldn't put the book down and completed the 400 pages in 3 days. The biggest thing I learned was something that had actually been nagging away at me for a long time. I was always going to be the hunter and not the gatherer. I enjoyed meeting people and helping them solve their financial issues and protect them and their family. But when it came to do the paperwork and the follow-ups with various departments, it just sucked the life out of my day. What I learned from the book was to employ and delegate those tasks which I didn't want to do. And since that day, I've employed that tactic to everything I do. My time is more valuable when I enjoy what I do, and I can reach more people to work with and help them and their families.
Yeah, and that is such a great answer, and I love that book too. I took a lot from that book as well. In fact, yesterday I actually hired a real assistant, not a virtual assistant, but someone to actually help me with my business as well, just so I'm not being the bottleneck and having to do everything. I can just focus on the content creation, hosting a podcast, and having the fun with that versus dealing with all the red tape and the minutia that sometimes you get stuck doing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I say, it sucks the life out of your day. You look back and you think, well, what did I achieve? If I could have handed that off to somebody, it would have just been such a great day. You know, I could get my work done and actually go for a walk in the sunshine or have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. You can focus on what you enjoy doing, and then let them do the stuff that you don't like doing. It's a great system.
Yep, and that's why focus and leverage are my two words.
Agreed. Well, Nabi, for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, well, I probably have a couple which I came up with, and they reside in the back of my head. Wealth is not about how much you make, but about how much you keep. And too many people think they spend money on toys such as cars and big screen TVs, and they think they're all assets. And although they may be, they're not good value for money. They'll eventually depreciate to the point where there's no value at all. So saving or investing is a security for the future. You should always pay yourself first, because that's who you're supposed to be working for, not the bosses and not the lenders or credit card companies. So my advice is pay off all debt as quickly as possible, and do not ever pay interest where possible. Interest is a tax on borrowing and deprives you of that money in your pocket for you and your family. And the other quote, another of my quotes is, if you wait until tomorrow, then today is a lost opportunity. Wasted time is lost, and it can never be replaced or retrieved. Deal with whatever the situation is right away, so there's no fear involved of losing or not being able to do it. Never let anything grow so big in your mind that it stops you from moving forward. Remove the roadblocks today and free up the rest of your life for fun, and in my case, for coffee and cakes.
That is great advice, and coffee and cake sound really good right now.
Yes.
Well, Nabi, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Look, they could. The best way to get in touch with me is ask@moneyrules.com.au. But they could always go to www.moneyrules.com.au and have a look at the website. You'll find the books are available in there under the heading of books, I think it is, and go from there. What I've actually done is develop a software program shows people how to eliminate their debt far more quickly, and this is where Rich Girl, Poor Girl and What More Money, Honey come from as books.
Well, Nabi, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.